Continuing, Tractate Menachot 42b with the words Uvi Yisrael ein tzorech levarech. Uvi Yisrael ein tzorech levarech. Tisha Rachia B'rei Rav Huna Mishmei Rav Yochanan Antfilin Shel Yad Omer Baruch, and they skip it like this. Go Asher Kishanu Baruch Asher Kishanu S'moisav V'tzivanu Le'aniach Tefillin Al Tefillin Sherosh Omer Baruch Asher Kishanu S'moisav V'tzivanu Al Mitzvah Tefillin. Oh, it's like Nusach Ashkenaz. Amoraim or Ashkenaz. I think Sfarim don't say the second blessing. V'ilu Laslis Tefillin L'Mivorech. And despite the fact that phylacteries written by a non-Yehudi are unfit, a Yehudi who writes them does not have to recite a blessing, as Rav Chia, the son of Huna, sent a ruling in the name of Rabbi Yochanan on phylacteries of the arm that one says the blessing, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us through his mitzvot and commanded us to don phylacteries." On phylacteries of the head, he says the blessing, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us through his mitzvot and commanded us concerning the mitzvah of phylacteries." The implication of this is that one recites blessings only when he dons the phylacteries, whereas when he writes the phylacteries, he does not recite a blessing to prepare phylacteries. Ela lav hainu time kol mitzvah des yaso gemar mitzvah k'goy milo afal gav dikasher b'goy Yisrael tzorech levarech Echol mitzvah des yaso lav gemar mitzvah k'goy tefillin afal gav dibsulas b'goy Yisrael tzorech levarech. Rather, isn't this the reason for the distinction between different mitzvot? For any mitzvah whose performance is the completion of the mitzvah, such as circumcision, even though it is valid when performed by a non-Jew, when it is performed by a Jew, he must recite a blessing. But for any mitzvah where the performance of a particular act is not the completion of mitzvah, such as writing phylacteries, where one does not complete the mitzvah until he dons them, even though it is not valid when performed by a non-Jew. When it is performed by a Jew, he does not need to recite the blessing. And with regard to blessing, and with regard to reciting a blessing, one who attaches ritual fringes to a garment, the sages disagree about this. One sage, Adavar Ahava, holds that it is an obligation pertaining to the cloak. Therefore, when one attaches the ritual fringes, he is completing the mitzvah, and he should recite a blessing to prepare ritual fringes. And one sage of Nachman citing Rav holds that is an obligation incumbent upon the man. Consequently, the mitzvah is not complete until he wears the garment, and he should not recite a blessing when he attaches the ritual fringes to the garment. Only Rav Mordechai and Rav Ashi. Antun Hachi Masnisula. Rav Mordechai said to Rav Ashi, "You teach this halacha about non-Yehudim attaching ritual fringes to a garment in this manner, citing Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, that ritual fringes are invalid. Consequently, Rav Chizah raises a contradiction between this ruling and another ruling of Rav. Antun Hachi Masnisula, Rav Yehuda Rav, Minayin Letzizis Begoy Shekeshero. We teach it in this way, according to which there is no contradiction. Rabbi Yehuda says, the Rav says, from where is it derived that if ritual fringes are attached to a garment by a Gentile, they are valid? How do you know? It is derived from that which is stated, because the children of Israel command them that they prepare themselves strings. Numbers 15:38. From the fact that the verse does not merely state they prepare v'asu, but rather v'asu lahem, and make for them, which can be translated as that they prepare for them. The indication is that even others, even non-Yehudim, shall prepare ritual fringes for them. V'asu tzitzis, because just say they should make tzitzis. Asu, make for them, meaning others could make for them. That was the knech. Amar Rav Yehuda Asam min hakoitzim ve'anim min hagodin psula min hasisin k'sheira. Yehuda says, the Rav says, one prepared ritual fringes from threads that protrude from the fabric like thorns, or if he prepared them from threads that were used to sew the garment and remain attached to it, or from the strings, the grodin, that hang from the bottom of the garment, the ritual fringes are unfit, as one must attach ritual fringes to the garment for the sake of the mitzvah. But if you prepared ritual fringes from swatches of wool that were not spun for the sake of the mitzvah, they are fit. Yehuda continues, when I stated this halacha in the name of Rav before Shmuel, he said to me, even ritual fringes tied from swatches of wool that were not spun for the sake of the mitzvah are unfit, as we require the spinning of the string to be for the sake of the mitzvah. Ketanai tzipan zahavot shetala alehem oil behemat tamea psulois or behemat toyer ksherois tiavot shelo ibiron nishman ibdan nishman Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer af oil behemat toyer psulois ad shiabden nishman. The Gemara notes that this dispute is like the dispute between Tanaim as it's taught in Brisa. If one took phylacteries and coated them with gold, or patched them with the skin of a non-kosher animal, they are unfit. But if one patched them with the skin of a kosher animal, they are fit. And this is so even though he did not prepare the skin for their sake. Meaning, for the sake of its use, is in a mitzvah. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, even if he patched them with the skin of a kosher animal, they are unfit until he prepares them for their sake. Amar le Abaye the Rav Shmuel Baal Rav Yehuda Hatachel Tahechi Tzivi Tula Amar le Masnisi Dam Chilazon Visamanin Virabin Lahu Beyoiro Vishaklilam Purta Bebeata Vitamina Lehu Beudra Vishanina Lehu Beita Vikalina Lehuda. The bias of Shmuel, Bar of Yehuda. How do you dye this sky blue wool used for ritual fringes? Shmuel Bar Yehuda said to Abaye, we bring blood of chilazon and various herbs and put them in a pot and boil them, and then we take a bit of resulting dye in an eggshell and test it by using it to dye a wad of wool to see if it has attained the desired blue hue. And then we throw away that eggshell and its contents and burn the wad of wool. Shmaminot las Shmaminot im psulo Shmaminot minan tzviel nishma Shmaminot im psulo. The Gemara comments, learn from this statement, learn from it that wool that was dyed for the purpose of testing the dye and not for the use of, as ritual fringes is unfit for ritual fringes. Consequently, one burns the wad of wool so that no one will use it for ritual fringes, and learn from it that we require dyeing for the sake of the mitzvah, and learn from it that using dye for testing renders all the dye in that vessel unfit. Therefore, some of the dye is removed from the pot before it is tested. Hainu te'ima pesula, hainu tzvir lishma, v'rashi ma'atam koma, ma'atam te'ima pesula, mishum namin and tzvir lishma. The Gemara challenges the halacha that wool dyed for the purpose of testing the dye is unfit is the same as the requirement as dyeing for the sake of the mitzvah. It is only because the sky blue strings must be dyed for the sake of the mitzvah that wool dyed as a test is unfit for use as ritual fringes. So why are these stated as two halachot? Rav Ashi said the statement about learning 3 halachot implies the style known as what is the reason, and it remains what is the reason that the wool was dyed for the purpose of testing is unfit. It is because we require dyeing for the sake of the mitzvah. Ketanai tiyum psula mishum shenemar klil tcheles divrei Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. The Gemara notes that the halacha that using the dye for testing renders all the dye in the pot unfit is subject to a dispute between Tanaim, as it is taught in Brisa that Chelas dye that was used for testing is unfit, and as it is stated concerning priestly vestments. The 6th parsha, priestly vestments, Mamash the 6th parsha, and you shall make the robe of the ephod entirely of blue. Kelil techeles, Exodus 28:31, which indicates that the dye must be used exclusively for this purpose. Meaning, this must be the first item This must be the first item it is being used to dye. This is the statement. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai Omer. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen this person before. Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai Omer. Afilu mal shnei sheba sheni sheba kosher mishum shneimar ushni toilas. Rabbi Yochanan ben Dahavai says even the second appearance caused by the dye is fit, meaning that even if it is the second time that the dye is being used, it is still fit, as it is stated in the verse. And scarlet wall. Tchilat Shani, Leviticus 14:4, which is interpreted to mean that this may be the second usage of the dye. Tanul Rabbanan Techeles ein la bedika v'nikachas ela min hamumche tefillin sheyesh lehem bedika v'nikochin ela min hamumche sfarim mezuzoi yesh lehem bedika v'nikochin mikol odom. The sages taught in Praita there is no reliable method for testing sky blue wool, and therefore it may be purchased only from an expert. There is a method of testing phylacteries to ensure that they were written properly, but nevertheless, they may be purchased only from an expert. There is a method of testing Torah scrolls and mezuzot, and they may be purchased from anyone. Utecheles ein la bedika, v'hara Yitzchak b'cheda Yehuda b'atiklei. So then it says Simen, Begeshem, Maisli, Magbia, Gila, Umaya, Deshablilta, Umay, Raglaim. So the Gemara asks, and is there really no method for testing sky blue wool? But didn't Rav Yitzchak say you would test it to ensure that it was dyed with techeles? The Gemara provides a mnemonic for the test, which is carried out with items whose names contain the letters Gimel, Shin, or Mem. He would bring them alum, clay, is magavia, gila, and water of fenugreek, shavlilta, and urine, memin raglaim. Okay, we'll stop here and continue. God willing, next daf.